The energy.
So this guy in the fantasy baseball chat is just ripping me. He's calling me names for how I handled my team. Buddy, you had 20 weeks for your own team to play better. Don't be mad at me.
The passion.
Mac Jones is fighting not just for his Patriots job, but he very well may be fighting for his NFL future.
The opinions on all your favorite teams.
For the Red Sox, it can't always be about next year. It can't always be about down the road. Where's the team that battles for now?
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Happy Friday here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Got a full show, all 90 minutes, taking you up until a little jazz music. Then we got a little NLCS action. Phillies lead the Diamondbacks 2-1. Good for the D-backs to go and get a win, though, yesterday. Walk-off hit from Ketel Marte. Plenty to get to here in this show. Patriots news on Bill Belichick and his future. We've got Phil Perry, Pat's insider at NBC Sports Boston, with us back at 5:45 today. We've got some UVM women's basketball news and notes I want to get to from yesterday. Danny's Mr. Preseason expert opinion on the Celtics blowout over the Hornets yesterday. All of it to get to, and you can get in on the text line 802-585-3026. That's 802-585-3026. Danny, let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts of the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. And also over in Rouse's Point, New York. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. Let's get to the latest here on the Red Sox general manager search. It is a Football Talk Friday. We're going to get to our six-pack of NFL questions. We're going to get to Phil Perry. I want to get to the latest on the Red Sox here. Here's what we know at this point now, right? So we've talked earlier this week with TC and Buster about the claims that nobody wants the job. Is it worrisome? Is it not worrisome? Well, we know now that Kim Ng, the former general manager of the Miami Marlins, the person that Buster has said would be great, the person that TC has said that he wants, we know that Kim Ng has declined to interview for the vacancy. We do not know why at this point, but we know that Kim Ng does not want the job. We do know also that Gabe Kapler interviewed for the job. Gabe Kapler is the guy who was just fired as the manager of the San Francisco Giants. He played in Boston for a couple of years, is known to the Red Sox community and to the Red Sox ownership group. He interviewed for the front office position. I don't think this is, I am not encouraged by what I'm hearing here. And it doesn't mean that you won't stumble into a good candidate. It doesn't mean that you won't luck into a good candidate. It doesn't mean you won't hire our friend Craig Breslow. And it doesn't mean that he won't end up being great, right? Even a disappointing process can yield a positive outcome. But I hate what I'm hearing right now, okay? People have said, I heard Buster said it to us yesterday, and I heard Lou Merlone say it as well, formerly of WEEI and the Red Sox radio network, saying, hey, they said they were going to have a big search. They're casting a wide net. When you do that, it's typical that you're going to get a lot of no's. And maybe that's true. I still hate hearing all the no's, though. Obviously, not nobody wants this job, right? They've had 8 to 10 interviews, so there are people that want it. But there's a lot of people who are qualified, who are happy where they are, or who don't, right? John Daniels, who's working as a consultant, who's getting offered a huge raise here, a huge pay jump, a huge, jump in status to take this job potentially. He said no, right? John Daniels said no. Kim Ng, who's unemployed at this point, said no. So there's a lot this worries me. And it goes back to what we said earlier in the week. This job is not as desirable as the Red Sox think it is, or as the Red Sox want it to be. And whether that's because of the Alex Cora factor, or that's because they finished in last place, or that's because the division they play in, or that's because their lack of pitching, or because of ownership's instability, I don't know. Maybe it's all of it. But it's not as desirable a job as people want it to be. Again, it doesn't mean you can't have a happy outcome to this, but we are not in a position right now where things look real rosy as far as I'm concerned. Gabe Kapler is a guy. I don't want Gabe Kapler as the general manager of the Red Sox. I do believe that guys could probably go from managing to front office work, but I can't go from managing to GM when you've never done it before. I'm sorry. Maybe Alex Cora could have done it, given the institutional knowledge he has of the Red Sox and given the relationship he has with players and with front office people around him and with the ownership group. Maybe he could have done it. I'm not doing that for somebody on the outside. Gabe Kapler was just in Philly and was just in San Francisco and just was on the field and got fired. If the Red Sox want to turn around and hire him as a coach, then that's fine. You want to hire Gabe Kapler as a coach, I'm all for it. Hiring Gabe Kapler as your GM, I'm not about that. Right? This guy was just on the field. He doesn't have a sense of player acquisition. He doesn't have a sense necessarily of player evaluation all the way up of how the draft works. I can't have that. Okay? Craig Breslow is a former player who's been doing that for a handful of years with the Cubs. He's been in that world. I'd rather hire him if we're going that route. But, I mean, I don't want Kapler. He's interviewing. You got Kim Ng who says no. You got John Daniels who says no. You got Theo Epstein who said no. All of these people think the situation they're in currently, including in Ng's case being unemployed, is better than working for the Boston Red Sox. That's disappointing. And the Red Sox have some good things about this job. Better farm system, decent core led by Rafael Devers. I like Yoshida. Trevor Story expected to be healthy, right? Young players like Bayo, who looks like a cornerstone player, Casas, who looks like a cornerstone player. There are things to like about this job, but people are finding more things that they don't like, and that is frustrating. Now, it looks like Craig Breslow is the leader in the clubhouse. And, Danny, I am mad at myself, really mad. We had Craig Breslow on the show about a month ago, right? And there was the rumors of Alex Cora going to the front office. And we asked Breslow about the idea of a player going to the front office and what that would be like and what did you need to learn. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that maybe Breslow himself was going to be up for the job, right? He's the assistant general manager of the Cubs. He's in charge of their pitching, development, etc. Never once when we spoke to him did I think that Breslow was going to be interested in the job or that he was going to be a candidate for the job. And now he's the leader in the clubhouse and he very well may get it. That's like when you see a television show and they're trying to catch the robber and they're asking people who's the robber. And it turns out they're talking to the guy who's the robber and they don't know. That's what I feel like now. Breslow's the leader in the clubhouse. Now, Lou Merloni, again, formerly of WEEI, he was on WEEI today and he was speaking about Breslow, says he likes him as a candidate.
You could look. I like Craig Breslow being involved. I look at Chris Young, the guy down in Texas, what he's able to do. Very smart, analytical. I get it, but at the same point, they're players. They would never abandon a team in the deadline. They know what that feels like. Look what Chris Young is doing out in Texas. Like he's just giving them everything they need, and then it's up to the boys. So as much as your analytical brain works, you still have that clubhouse feel. You know what a clubhouse feels like. You're an ex-player. So I like him being involved in some way.
Yeah, it's interesting that Lou says that. I think that Lou's probably right. A guy who is a former player, especially a guy who's only a couple of years removed, does have that player's mindset of where they want to go for it. That is something that Chaim Bloom was lacking, right? That's something Chaim Bloom was lacking. That said, you still have bosses. And Craig Breslow is still an Ivy League guy, right? I believe he went to Yale. So he's still going to value the process. He's still going to value analytics. He's still going to value prospects. So just because he's a former player doesn't mean that he's going to go and blow out the farm system at every chance he gets. I think he's more likely to do it than Chaim Bloom, but he's still a Ivy-educated guy like Bloom is. So just because it's Breslow potentially doesn't mean that it's instantly everything is fixed. I think it could be good. And we like Breslow and he sounds like a great guy. And when we spoke to him, I really enjoyed him. But, I think just, he's a former player means, this means he's on our side always and he gets it. Not necessarily. Jerry DiPoto is a former player. Now he's 20 years removed or whatever. He's the Mariners president of baseball operations. They don't sign anybody. Right? Like they're not out spending a bunch of money. They're not out necessarily going for it at the trade deadline. That's a former player. Again, he's further removed. He's more into the front office world than he is the former player world at this point. I think Breslow is going to be better for the Red Sox than Chaim Bloom was in terms of that stuff. But he's not just going to instantly go and do everything that the players want. He's not. But I'm disappointed with how this has gone. Again, you tell me that the no's are typical. Yes, maybe when companies cast a wide net, maybe a bunch of no's are typical. It shouldn't be typical for the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox should be atypical. The Boston Red Sox are supposed to be that special and that good, and they're supposed to be the dream job. They're supposed to be the job that makes you do things uncomfortable as a person, right? John Daniels, my family doesn't want to move Dallas. You know what? For the Boston Red Sox, we got to do it. Kim Ng, hey, I'd rather take a year off. But you know what? The Boston Red Sox job doesn't come around very often. And that's not the answer that they're getting. And that is troublesome to me. And it is worrisome to me. There should be people lining up for the job. Instead, it feels like the Red Sox are begging people for the job. I remember a bunch of years ago, Texas football, right, was in the same position. They were asking everybody to interview, and everybody was saying no. And people were like, this is supposed to be Texas. How far have you fallen that you can't get the head coach at wherever to come interview for Texas? That's how bad it had gotten. Well, what can we say about the Red Sox when guys who were number 2s and number 3s in other organizations would rather stay in those spots than come be the number 1 for you? It is tough. And I haven't enjoyed what I've heard. I don't enjoy the idea of Gabe Kapler. I don't like that Kim Ng said no. And I don't appreciate that Derek Falvey said no. And all these other guys who are their top candidates. Maybe they land on Breslow, and maybe Breslow's great. And I liked Breslow when we spoke to him, and I will forever root for him if he's the guy, and I'll be partial to him. But it is disappointing at this point. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, at WDEVradio.com. I want to start to get ready for Patriots football here. Phil Perry is going to stop by in just a couple of minutes here from NBC Sports Boston. Patriots are taking on the Bills. That game is going to be played in Foxborough on Sunday at 1. Our coverage is going to begin at 10 a.m. The Bills are 4-2. The Patriots are 1-5. Patriots have a lot of injuries going into this one, right? They had a zillion guys on the injury report yesterday. We don't know about Hunter Henry. Trent Brown says he's going to play. Don't know how effective he'll be, though. But nonetheless, it's not a good situation for the Pats. They're already a worse team. They're already a bad team. And now they're going to be an undermanned team or a banged-up team at the very least when they need to be at 100% to have a chance to beat the Bills. I don't think the Patriots win this game, right? Like, I'm at the point now where I'm not going to pick the Patriots to win most games that they play. They are just not as good, flat out, as most other teams in the NFL. Can they steal a game against Denver down the road? Yeah, I think they probably can. Can they beat Indy without Anthony Richardson in Germany? They probably could. Can they win 4 games this year? I think they can. But I'm not going to go into games and pick them to win at this point. That's how far they have fallen at this point. Let's go out to the phone line now and bring on Phil Perry, our NBC Sports Boston Patriots insider. He is our guy every week at this time, and he's my favorite Patriots insider, and we're lucky to have him on. Phil, happy Friday once again. Here we are. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great, Brady. I will say it once again, as I said last week, probably a little bit better than the football team right now.
Yeah, that is very true. And Phil, let me ask you a question here, because I'm well versed in watching a bad baseball team, right? When the Red Sox are out of it in July, I'm like, okay, call up the prospects and play the kids. That's not really the case in football. How are you watching the 1-5 Patriots these days?
Well, what's interesting is that they might be able to do that at a couple of different positions, actually, Brady, and I think they should. And I think the priority should be to find out what you have on this team, both in terms of talent and in terms of leadership over the course of the next 2 months, because I think your core is sort of in question right now, certainly in terms of your veteran core, but also, even the veteran core that you have that's under contract, David Andrews, Dietrich Wise, Jonathan Jones, those types of guys, there's not a Pro Bowler in that group. Okay, so what's the high-end talent too? And I think part of finding that is playing young guys instead of some of the known commodities you have that are veterans. In the position group, that I look at first and foremost when we're talking about this is receiver. For me, there's no value in watching any more Devontae Parker or Juju Smith-Schuster, who may or may not play this weekend. But I've just got no interest in finding out what they are moving forward for this team, because I don't think they are going to be able to give the team much. And it's not even really about right now. It's about next year. And so I would want to see, okay, what if we gave all of Juju Smith-Schuster's snaps to Pop Douglas? How does that look? Or what if we gave all of Devontae Parker's snaps to Tyquan Thornton, or mix in a little bit of Kayshon Boutte if you want? Like, that's the kind of thing that I would be interested in moving forward. But then there's the other thing too, which is, who are your leaders? Who are your program guys? They don't have to be vocal, Brady, but I think that's something that even fans, as they're watching these games, can keep an eye out for. Who's giving real effort moving forward? Who's showing real resiliency in the face of this lost season? For instance, Christian Barmore, I thought, played his ass off last week. And again, you're trying to win that game to try to salvage your season. We know what happened. But if he does that over the course of the next 2 months, that might be a guy that I'm looking to extend this offseason. And he's got a reputation as not necessarily being the most mature individual. But if he's one of the few guys that I know is giving effort, that I know is laying it on the line, even though there's no hope of them doing anything in the postseason this year, that's the guy I want around. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for, in addition to, can you get some young receivers on the field, please?
Phil, we've talked a lot about the idea of buy-in, right? We talk about it every offseason. We talk about it every time there's a coaching change. If this team checks out and guys are clearly playing for themselves and not playing hard, I think we all agree that would reflect poorly on Bill Belichick, and that would certainly hurt his chances of being back in 2024. But if Bill Belichick is able to get guys doing what Christian Barmore did last week and clearly has the attention of the locker room still, does that help save him?
I don't think so. I think if things continue to trend record-wise in the way they're trending, even if they're playing hard, Brady, it's just clear that this team's not talented enough. And that's part of Bill Belichick's job. Now, maybe you could say, well, do you just take away the GM title next year and keep him as head coach? I'm not sure that's something that he would be interested in, honestly, number one. And it just poses a lot of difficult questions for me. Are you going to bring somebody in here who's going to all of a sudden be picking Bill Belichick's players and he's just not going to have a say? And is that person going to be a Belichick-related person? Because if so, then what's the point? And if it's not, then you're basically you're firing Bill Belichick without firing him, because you probably understand in your heart of hearts that he doesn't want to be part of that scenario. So that, to me, is the crux of the issue. It's the core problem with this team, is that the roster is not good. And so I just don't think that even good effort, as good as that is to see, and you do want to see it. And listen, Brady, if you're Gerard Mayo and you're the next head coach of the New England Patriots, that's what I'd be looking for right now.
Yeah.
Right? Who's giving real effort? Who's doing the right things behind the scenes? Who's still doing all the weight room work that we're looking for, all the conditioning work that we're looking for? Who's still showing up early, not just on time, but early, and doing the extra stuff that I want my teams to do moving forward if and when I am the head coach. That's the kind of thing that I think players should be thinking about right now, because even though Bill Belichick might not be their boss next year, your boss next year might be in the building and might be watching closely. So I would still be getting after it as much as I can if I'm a player on this team.
Phil Perry, Pats Insider, NBC Sports Boston, with us here as we get ready for Patriots and Bills. That game is Sunday at 1. Our coverage begins Sunday at 10 here on your home for Patriots football, WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Your NBC Sports Boston teammate, Albert Breer, said yesterday, I believe, on Fox Sports Radio, that there have been internal discussions already about moving on from Bill Belichick. Are you hearing that those discussions have taken place as well?
Oh, yeah. And listen, I think it's important to point out, this has been going on for some time. I mean, the head coach is into his 70s now. If they haven't been thinking about this, that's a grave, grave error on the Kraft part. And I know they've been discussing it. And again, this was occurring before the wheels completely fell off. So I think it is, and I think Albert would tell you the same thing. So this is not necessarily oh my God, the team is bad now, we got to think about what's next with Bill Belichick. No, but Robert Kraft takes this seriously in terms of understanding that this team matters as much as it does to his family, but also the fan base. And for him to not have a plan for a coach who's, again, in his early 70s now, but that would just be a dereliction of duty on his behalf. And so, listen, is extending Gerard Mayo and preventing him from, in some ways preventing him from going and doing a head coaching interview down in Carolina and making it very clear, making an announcement, a public statement, how he feels about Gerard Mayo's potential as a coach and as a head coach. And so, again, you've got to be thinking about this sort of thing if you're Robert Kraft. And I know it sounds explosive to say they've already considered it, but I can tell you they've been considering it for a while now. It's not just because the team hasn't been performing. It's because we all know Bill Belichick's much closer to the end than the beginning.
Phil, I don't know that I want the team to be reckless per se, but they've been handling Mac with kid gloves because they've still thought they've had a chance to save their season. Now that they don't really have a chance to save their season, wouldn't you want to see Mac let it fly and be a little bit more open with how he's playing and allowed to play?
No, I don't think so. Because I think if you're and here's why I say that. I'm putting myself in the Bill Belichick's shoes now. He's going to try to win every game.
Yes.
This is just how he's wired. He every time his team is on the field, he wants to win. Now, the reason you would tell Mac Jones not to cut it loose and let's just see what happens is because you understand he's not that kind of player. And not only is he not that kind of player, but the personnel you have around him would never even allow him to be that kind of player. I mean, you think about the offensive situation, from a 10,000-foot perspective here now, Brady. You've got an immobile quarterback behind a bad line with nobody who gets open to throw to. It's a horrible mix. There really is no way to play in this kind of offense, and that's not to excuse Mac Jones' play, which has at times just been atrocious and inexcusable in terms of some of the decisions that he has made. But there's also not a lot to work with here, and that goes for Mac Jones, that goes for Bill O'Brien as well. I've heard people criticize Bill O'Brien, and I get it. Listen, you're scoring 11 points a game going into last week, the way the Patriots were. The offensive coordinator is going to catch some criticism, but I don't know what you want him to do because it is so dysfunctional on that side of the ball right now. I look at it and I say, if you are trying to win, if you're Bill Belichick, the way you do that is you're going to try to run the ball, and they tried early last week, and they couldn't stop running into penalties, and they couldn't stop shooting themselves in the foot, and they actually did have some success. If you look at the numbers running the football, they just got down, and eventually they had to throw, and eventually you make some bad decisions, and all of a sudden the game is getting away from you. And so, and then it was still one possession game by game 10. So it's just not something that they're going to be inclined to do this year. It's man, just run around out there and see what happens. Just try to make something happen because everybody knows he's not that kind of player. And I think the interception last week is pretty indicative of that. They're dying, Brady. They're dying for him to just stay within the team and see what happens. If you could just get him to stay within the team for the entirety of the game, what would the outcome look like? I think that's what they're wondering right now. But his issues over the course of the last month or so have been when he tries to do too much. So if anything, they want him to go the other direction and to use your word, handcuff himself even more. See what happens then.
Phil, I'll get you out of here on this. Your teammates at NBC Sports Boston were playing this game yesterday. We played a version of it on our show yesterday. I gave Mac Jones a 60% chance of starting week 1 next year, but a 10% chance of actually finishing the season as the starter. Do you think I'm in the ballpark, or are those percentages too high?
Ooh, I think you're in the ballpark there. Finishing the season one might be, honestly, Brady, it might be too low. And the reason I say that is because if you don't have an option that you really like going into next year, and you're going to be rebuilding, like if they can't acknowledge that, then shame on them. But you're a rebuilding team right now. And so if you draft a young quarterback really highly, what has been happening lately in football is you get those guys on the field, and you get them on the field early. And so if you're able to get one of the top 2 or maybe 3 quarterbacks, and I'll just tell you, just from talking to some people, there's a clear top 2 in this class. It's Caleb Williams and it's Drake May, and then there's a whole mess of quarterbacks who may end up going in the first round, but are much less of sure things when compared to the other top 2 guys. If you can land Drake May somehow, I don't think they're getting the number 1 overall pick, What if you could somehow get the second quarterback in this year's draft? Like, get him on the field and play him. And so I look at this, though, and I wonder what their odds are of actually getting one of these top two guys. I don't think it's all that good, Brady. I think there are two teams that want one of these two players that are better equipped to be able to land them with the draft capital they have. And they're both bad teams. It's the Cardinals and the Bears. And they both have someone else's first-round pick this year, and they're both already at the bottom of the league in terms of the standings. So can you outrace those guys to the bottom for either May or Williams? My guess is no. And so that's why I would put it above a 50% chance that Mac Jones is back, because you just don't know. You don't know what else you're going to be able to get at that position. Baker Mayfield's a free agent. Ryan Tannehill's a free agent. You know, if you want to go this route, Jacoby Brissett is a free agent, Brady. So it could go another way with a veteran if they wanted to. But I look at it and I say, you might have to, see what you can salvage out of Mac Jones this year. See how much he can give you. Can he be a little bit better leader? Can he make better decisions? Because you might be pigeonholed into running it back with him next year as your quarterback. And even if you do get a young quarterback that you like, is he ready to go week one? So that's more your scenario that I think you're talking about. So 60% he starts the season, but maybe Michael Penix Jr. is your starter by week 10. That's the scenario I could envision as well. But I would be right around your numbers, I think. I think you hit the nail on the head, buddy.
All right, there you go. Phil, much appreciated. Enjoy the game. We'll catch up again next week.
All right, man. Thanks. Sounds good, Brady. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. There goes Phil Perry, Pats Insider, NBC Sports Boston. Our coverage begins on Sunday at 10. The kickoff is at 1 against the Buffalo Bills, that game being played in Foxborough. And Danny, you know what stood out to me from the entire interview? We talked to Phil for 12 minutes or whatever there. You know what stood out to me more than anything else?
Tell me.
We didn't talk about anything with the game. That's where the Patriots are at. We didn't ask Phil
irrelevant
anything. All right, the game itself, the strategy of the game is irrelevant at this point. And that is a sad and frustrating place to be for me as a fan, for you as a fan, for the Patriots as an organization. I did ask him the one question about maybe let Mac cut it loose versus playing conservatively. And he said, no, keep playing conservatively, which, man, that disappoints me. But, beyond that, we didn't talk about the game at all. I remember over the last 7 years, how many times have I gone into a matchup and on a Friday, and I'm like, okay, well, they need to run more. They need to play action more. They're missing this guy on the line. That team's missing this defensive tackle. What can they do here? How can they exploit the DB? None of that matters. If the Patriots win this game, I will be happy that hour, Danny, 3 hours on Sunday are invested well, right? From watching from 1 till 4 will have gone well if the Patriots win this game. Beyond that, it's irrelevant. That's where they're at. It is irrelevant what happens. They're going to lose. They're going to fall to 1-6, and then they're probably going to be 1-7 after the next week. What's the way the Patriots win this game? The way the Patriots win this game is if Josh Allen tries to play hero ball and Bill Belichick gets injured. Fair enough, right? If Josh Allen gets injured or tries to play hero ball to the point that the Patriots can force him into a bunch of mistakes, then that's how the Patriots can win. But offensively, I don't think the Patriots could do enough even to capitalize on that, even if they did. How have the Patriots stymied Josh Allen in the past? Well, they forced him. They've played deep. They've taken away the deep ball. They've forced him to methodically go down the field 8 yards at a time, and they've waited to see if he'll make the big mistake. Sometimes he has, other times he hasn't. Last year, Thursday Night Football, that one was in Foxborough too, I believe. He absolutely killed them. He absolutely killed them. He didn't make the big mistake. If he makes the big mistake, like Zach Wilson has done typically, then maybe the Patriots have a chance in this one. Chance. But even if he does, I don't know that they can capitalize. I look at this game, and I think the Patriots will probably play reasonably well defensively and do nothing offensively. I got Bills 24-14. Okay, I've got Bills 24-14.
You think we'll score 14?
I think it could be 24-7 late, and then the Patriots get a backdoor extra 7. That's what I think. So I'm going to say 24-14. I think they play reasonably well defensively. I don't think you shut down Josh Allen, but you limit him to the point where it's not ugly. I don't think they're going to lose 40-10. 24-14 is my prediction. I want to wrap up a couple other things that Phil talked about with us, and then I want to get to the 6-pack of NFL questions and take you around the league as a whole. We'll get to it after CBS News here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com.
96.1 WDEV FM Warren, 96.5 W243 AT Berry, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Indeed.com.
I'm Peter King. Hamas has released 2 Israeli Americans it kidnapped from an Israeli kibbutz nearly 2 weeks ago. They're holding dozens more hostage, Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
The entire United States government will work every minute of every day to secure their release, to bring their loved ones home.
CBS's Tina Krause in Tel Aviv.
In Israel, families of hostages gathered Friday at a massive Shabbat table set with 203 empty seats.
I hope they will hear us and feel us as we feel them every day.
In Gaza City, residents are mourning victims of an Israeli airstrike that damaged part of a church where Christians and Muslims were taking refuge.
Republicans say Ohio's Jim Jordan is out of the running after he failed to win 3 times. Now they're looking for another House Speaker candidate. CBS's Scott McFarland.
The U.S. House, partly exhausted, partly frustrated with each other, potentially enraged at each other in some cases, has decided to take a 72-hour recess, leave town, come back Monday evening and try this all over again with new candidates, somebody else besides Jim Jordan or Kevin McCarthy.
Former Trump attorney Kenneth Chesebro has pled guilty to trying to subvert the 2020 election in Georgia. He now avoids a trial. Loyola law professor Lori Levinson says this helps prosecutors with more than a dozen other cases to trial.
2 key defendants have pled guilty, and the prosecutors have not had to show their full hand in the cases likely coming down the pike against Donald Trump and other defendants.
Some good news and bad news on the auto workers' strike. Union President Shawn Fain.
I'm happy to report that in the past 24 hours, we've seen serious movement from both Stellantis and GM.
But on Facebook Live, Fain says it's still not enough to end the 5-week-old strike against the Big Three. Portland, Oregon teachers are unhappy and they're preparing to strike. KXL's John Eric Smith tells us why.
The Portland Association of Teachers says its members are ready to walk off the job and picket on November 1st. Angela Bonilla, the president of the union, says students need smaller class sizes.
Our students need more attention. They need more time with school staff, and that's because our class sizes are just too big.
Teachers also want a cost of living adjustment of 21.5%. The district says it's not getting enough funding from the state to meet that demand. John Eric Smith for CBS News, Portland, Oregon.
The ironic story of the day involves a northern New York City that was in the middle of a water emergency. That city was Watertown, New York. I kid you not. A water main break has since been fixed. Wall Street, the Dow closed down 287. This is CBS News.
You need to hire? Indeed is with you every step of the way, helping you attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
The sock sale is back. It's mid-October, and that means one thing and one thing only, sock sale. Called the 13th wonder of the world, the annual Cabot Hosiery Mill sock sale is back, bigger and better than ever. The 41st annual Cabot Hosiery Mill sock sale is Saturday and Sunday, October 21st and 22nd and 28th and 29th from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Nantana Mill in Northfield, Vermont. As always, we'll have more socks than you can shake a stick at. Cold weather hunting socks, run, hike, ski, and snowboard socks, merino wool and cool max, novelty and holiday patterns, real military surplus socks, and plus sizes for the hardiest of feet. Everything you love about our socks, plenty of them, all at the Nantana Mill in Northfield, Vermont. 10% off any purchase over $100. Don't miss this sale. Saturday and Sunday, October 21st and 22nd and 28th and 29th from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Nantana Mill in Northfield, Vermont. Plenty of parking and tent coverage for rain or snow. This is Rick Cabbage for Cabot Hosiery Mills, and we absolutely positively feel the best thing you can do for you, your feet, your family, and friends is to buy socks from the 13th wonder of the world at the sock capital of the world, the Cabot Hosiery Mills annual sock sale. Don't miss it.
Hi, it's Lindsay D. from Bolton Valley. 'Tis the season for all things season long. Sign your kids up for our season-long ski and ride lessons programs and get your season-long rental equipment for loading the lift or exploring the backcountry. But beware, if you haven't already gotten your season's pass, prices go up on Halloween. Unless you want us to pay you to ski and ride this winter. We're hiring full and part-time right now. However you find your way to BV this winter, I'll see you up here in just a few weeks.
WDEV is your home for New England Patriots football. The Patriots take on AFC rival the Buffalo Bills this Sunday. Pregame at 10, kickoff at 1. Patriots football on WDEV, brought to us by Matt Clark's Northern Basement Systems. For all things basement-y, visit northernbasements.com. By Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center on Route 15 in Hardwick, your go-to place for routine auto maintenance. And Patriot Transport, affordable transportation for the greater Stowe, Burlington, and Central Vermont region. New England Patriots football this Sunday at 10 on WDEV AM and FM.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM, WDEVradio.com. We're going to get to our six-pack of NFL questions here momentarily, but I do want to wrap up our conversation with Phil Perry, our Pats insider at NBC Sports Boston. You know, Phil kind of downplayed the report that was out about the Patriots having kind of the talks about moving on from Bill Belichick. He's like, well, Brady, he's over 70 years old, right? Or he's 70 years old. Of course, they've been talking about moving on from him for a couple of years. This is different, though, right? Albert Breer said, I can tell you for sure, Robert Kraft hears the criticism. He hears the anger locally, and people in the building know for a fact that he's hearing the anger from the fan base. Breer added that the discussions about Belichick have been underway for a while. And I said, I think now we're at the point where, is this just going to be a flat-out firing? That is what's different, okay? I do believe that Phil is right? Phil's not lying to us. Phil's not wrong. Phil's in the building. They've clearly been planning for life without Bill Belichick for a couple of years, right? They've thought to themselves internally, okay, hey, is Josh McDaniels going to be our next guy? Is Gerard Mayo going to be our next guy? Is Steve Belichick going to be our next guy? Hey, do we want our next guy to be from outside the family? They have had those conversations within their building. I'm positive of that also. What's different is when Breer says, I think now we're at the point where, is this just going to be a flat out firing? That's what's different. I don't believe that there's been any scenario where Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft have sat in a room and have said to themselves, do we need to fire Bill Belichick? I'm sure they've thought about him leaving. I'm sure they've thought about him transitioning. I'm sure they've thought about him retiring. And I'm sure they've wondered what a succession plan would look like. But here's the thing. A succession plan is planned. A firing is not. I do not believe that these men, Robert and Jonathan Kraft, have sat around thinking about firing Bill Belichick in the past. I don't. I think that deep down, Robert Kraft has always either thought that Bill Belichick could pick himself up and get out of this, or that Bill Belichick had enough clout and enough skins on the wall that he deserved the chance to try to get out of this, and then thought, hey, in Bill, we trust. So I'm sure Robert Kraft has been annoyed based on his comments. I'm sure he's been frustrated over the last few years, but I think he's always thought that Belichick deserved the opportunity to get out of this. And I don't know that he ever really put himself in a position to think he would have to do this, right? He's never seen Bill Belichick fail. I said all offseason, Danny, this is before you came on, but I was saying all along that I don't think Bill Belichick's on the hot seat this year. I think this year opens the eyes of Robert Kraft, and he's on the hot seat next year. Those eyes are open now. They're wide open. So I do think that's new. I do think that's different for Albert Breer, Albert Breer knows what he's talking about. He knows what's happening in the league. He knows what's happening in that building. For him to say, I'm wondering if this is going to be a flat out firing, that is huge. Phil said, it sounds like a bombshell. I think that is a bombshell. The idea the greatest coach of all time could be fired. The idea that a guy who's chasing history could be fired. A guy who's been the pillar of your franchise for more than 20 years could be fired. Yeah, you're ready to think about that guy walking away. You're ready to think about that guy moving on. You're ready to think about that guy taking on an advisory role. But you're also thinking that you're going to sit down and come to a conclusion with him about how any or all of that happens. You do not just sit down and think, wow, we are one of the worst teams in the league all of a sudden, and we're going to have to fire this guy. You don't think about that. So I do think that was a new report. I do think that was a Big time report. Text says Crafts have dodged the media at the recent owners meeting. Ben Volen of the Boston Globe says Jonathan dressed in a hood to escape. I'm not saying that's wrong. I don't know that. I did not read Ben Volen. I've read Ben Volen plenty of times. I like Ben Volen's work. I did not read that. Does not mean it's not true. I just didn't see it. Text says it's kind of obvious the Patriots are in free fall with next year looking as bleak as this year already. Drake May would be a failure with the Patriots too if there's no playmakers or a solid offensive line. You can't say that. You can't say that next year looks as bleak as this year because the NFL is a turn me around very, very quickly league, right? You can go from worst to first, right? I was in the building when the Jaguars fell to 1-14 or 1-15 against the Patriots, right? Jess and I went to the game in December of 2021, and the Patriots won that game, I want to say 51-3. And the Jaguars were 1-15. They finished last. They had the number one pick in the draft for the second consecutive year in 2022, and they made the playoffs. Right? They made the playoffs. The league you can turn around in the NFL quickly. Now, the Jags play in a bad AFC South. The Patriots play in a much better division. It's certainly harder. But you can't sit here right now and say that the season next year is already over. I refuse to hear that. Right? The schedule could open up. The schedule could be easier. The teams you play could be different. The travel could be different. The sequencing of the schedule could be different. You catch a break here. You get a good call. And all of a sudden, you're 8-9. Right? If the Patriots finish 4-13, wouldn't we sit here and say that 8-9 next year is a big improvement? Right? Do you think they're going to go 2-15 and then go 2-15 again? That I wouldn't see. So, yes, it looks right now like next year they don't have a lot of talent. But you go out and spend in free agency. You go out and hit on a draft pick. You go out and get a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the draft, and all of a sudden he's good. I don't know. You go hire a new head coach, and I heard somebody say the Patriots should try to hire Sean McVay next year. I don't think he would do it, but if he did, wouldn't we sit here and say the Patriots' outlook looks better next year? You can turn it around in the NFL quickly. How bad were the Lions forever? Last year, would they win 8 games? This year, 2-year process, 5-1, one of the best teams in the NFL. The Eagles were bad for a long time. Super Bowl last year, right? Super Bowl in whatever year that was against the Patriots, 2018, 2019. Okay. And now back to the Super Bowl. I mean, you can turn it around quick. Seahawks went 6-11 last year with Russell Wilson. Next year with Geno Smith, 9-8 playoffs. Like, things change for you year to year in the NFL. I can't sit here and say that, next year is automatically destined to be awful for the Patriots just because this year is awful. Tex says the ideal replacement for Belichick is Jim Harbaugh. They both like to cheat. I'm not a Harbaugh fan. I get the joke is about what's going on at Michigan, illegal scouting and things like that. I'm not a Harbaugh fan. We're always talking about him going to the NFL. I really wouldn't want that.
Doesn't he just do that to get a better payday at Michigan?
I think deep down Harbaugh probably does want to coach in the NFL, but he's got far more job security at Michigan than he'd ever have again in the NFL, right? Just the NFL is...
And much more control.
Right, and much more control. Like, I think Harbaugh likes the pro game, and I think he likes the idea of chasing a Super Bowl, and he got to a Super Bowl with the Niners and Kaepernick, 10 years ago at this point when they lost to the Ravens. I think he likes the pro game. I think he appreciates the pro game. He played in the NFL for more than a decade with a bunch of teams. So I think he probably deep down wants to do it, but he's got more control. He's got a ton of money, and he's got, barring super sanctions, he's got pretty much unlimited job security. He's beaten Ohio State a couple of years. He's gotten to the college football playoff. Michigan's back in and being a top 5 program. I mean, that's, he's got job security there you don't have in the NFL. I don't want Harbaugh being the coach of the Patriots. I don't want Harbaugh being the coach of any team that I like. I think Harbaugh's kind of a clown. That's just me, though. Probably a jaded Seahawks fan who saw him be good with the Niners for all those years. Didn't like his antics then. Don't like I'm just not a Jim Harbaugh guy. That's it. I'm not against bringing in a college head coach, right? Like, I'd have to do my research on a guy like Lincoln Riley or whoever, but I'm not against bringing in college head coaches. I am against bringing in Jim Harbaugh. All right. I got a couple other Patriots things I want to get to here, but I want to wait a little bit. I want to get to our 6-pack of NFL questions. Danny, fire the music. All right, Danny, big voice guy, question number 1.
The best game of the NFL weekend is?
Best game of the NFL weekend? I think that's pretty easy, right? I think that's pretty easy for all of us at this point. This is Dolphins at Eagles. We're talking about two of the best teams in the NFL. We're talking about a matchup here that could be a potential Super Bowl matchup. This game is on Sunday Night Football. Both teams are 5-1, right? It's intriguing in the sense you got two former Alabama quarterbacks going against each other. You got Tua against Jalen Hurts. You've got all that offense for Miami against all that physicality up front for Philly. Philly's coming off their first loss of the year. You know they're going to be angry. You know they're going to be motivated, right? Two top offenses in the NFL. Miami is averaging, get this, 500 yards a game. 500 yards a game based on what they did against Denver. Philly's averaging 395 a game. It's the top two rushing teams in the NFL. And Philly, again, is good up front. We've seen what Jalen Carter has done in the early portion of his rookie season in the NFL. So they do have some physicality to their game on defense. I mean, this is a fascinating game. And it will be interesting to see how Miami does as we transition to the colder weather. People always say, track teams can't run on ice, and can lightning run on ice? Everybody's worried that the Dolphins are too pretty, that they're too soft, that they're too speed-oriented, and you can't play that game as you get into November and you get into December. We're not there yet, but I'm sure it's going to be in the upper 40s, low 50s in Philly. It's not going to be in the upper 20s, but we're starting to see the weather transition. How does Miami start to handle that stuff? Can they still do what they're doing offensively as the weather turns? This is the best matchup of the weekend, okay? I mean, there's a lot of stuff kind of analytically in this game that I'm interested in, a lot of nerdy stuff, you know, how much Miami uses motion, et cetera. They use motion more than any teams in the NFL. How can they go and get Philly confused? What do we see Nick Sirianni and his defense do as an answer to that? So Miami is averaging 182 yards a game rushing, Philly at 150. Hard to believe. By the way, the Eagles are the favorite for what it's worth. They're favored by 1.5 points, but again, they are at home. So it's basically a pick'em game in Vegas. They like the Eagles because they're at home, but two best offenses, pretty good defense in Philly as well. Two Alabama quarterbacks, both teams 5-1, one of them coming off a loss. Jalen Hurts had the Eagles had 4 turnovers last week. Here's the thing to watch. Hurts has 7 interceptions this year already. That is more than he had all of last season. Can they force him into a big mistake or two to go and get a victory? Danny, next question.
The game that intrigues us most is?
I can't believe I'm going to the NFC South, but I'm going with a standings game that intrigues me. Falcons at Buccaneers. I really wanted to give the Lions their flowers again here, but Falcons at Buccaneers. 3-3 Atlanta, coming off a loss. 3-2 Tampa, coming off a loss. The winner of this game is going to be in first place in the division, right? Saints lost last night on Thursday Night Football. Winner of this game is in first place. Bucs are coming off a loss against the Lions. Falcons are coming off a loss against the Commanders. I'm intrigued by it because it's a battle for first place. I always like watching Bijan Robinson play, the running back of the Falcons. And there's questions about Desmond Ridder I'm interested in seeing him as well. How does he respond, right? I see a lot of people on social media every week. Man, the Falcons are too good to have their quarterback play, hold them back like this. The Falcons are too good to have Desmond Ridder be the guy. There's got to be somebody better than Desmond Ridder. Well, he had 3 picks last week against the Commanders, 2 of which were really bad and late in the game. Falcons could have had that win. They could have been in first place already. Bucs didn't look so good against the Lions, scoring only 6 points, right? Baker Mayfield said, we got to come out and be PO'd this week. They said they are going into this game. They are at home again. You don't want to lose at Raymond James Stadium back-to-back games here. Bucs have the 3rd best turnover margin in the NFL. Can they take advantage of Desmond Ridder's ability to give the ball away? Bucs are +6 in the turnover margin. Atlanta, 5th worst in the NFL, -6. If Ridder can keep care of the ball, then certainly with Kyle Pitts and with Drake London and with Bijan Robinson, they've got guys who can make plays. If he can't take care of the ball, then you're talking about a Bucs defense that can be opportunistic. I like Baker Mayfield, don't love him, but if his defense can make some plays for him, then I think the Bucs have a chance to win. The Bucs are favored by 2.5. Danny, third question.
The bar rescue game of the week is?
There's only one choice for this, right? There's only one choice for this. The game that nobody wants to watch, Raiders-Bears. I would rather watch Judge Judy reruns, bar rescue reruns, shows from the 1950s that are in black and white. I'd rather watch any of that than watch this game. I'd rather take my dog out for a 3-hour walk in the pouring rain on Sunday than watch this game. Raiders-Bears. The Raiders are 3-3. The Bears are 1-5. The quarterback play is the reason I'm not interested. Jimmy Garoppolo's not playing. Brian Hoyer is. Seen enough of him. Okay. Justin Fields isn't playing. The undrafted rookie, Tyson Bagent, looks like he's going to start in this one for the Bears. I'm good. Tyson Bagent, the undrafted rookie. When you give me Brian Hoyer and Tyson Bagent, I give you Judge Judy reruns. It's that simple. Okay. Raiders are actually in the fray when it comes to the playoff race, right? Like they're 3-3. If they get above 500 to 4-3, they'd be squarely in the conversation in the AFC. There is some interest to that, but look, I just the quarterback play. Bagent is going to be the first quarterback from a Division II school to start an NFL game since 2010. Shout out to the non-Division I guys. Congratulations to you. But nobody from a Division II school has started an NFL game as a quarterback since John Kitna and Todd Bauman did it in 2010. You can tell me how it goes. I'll watch the highlights, and that'll be enough for me. I mean, the Bears have given up 25 sacks already. That's the third most in the NFL. So good luck, Tyson Bagent. Question number 4, Danny.
The player we want to watch most this week is?
This is where I got to get the Lions their flowers, baby. I want to watch Jared Goff because I always thought that Jared Goff got a raw deal in Los Angeles, right? We saw him with the capable, right? We say all the time that the Patriots don't have a good system around Mac Jones. Well, we saw Jared Goff with a good system in L.A. be really good, right? He got to the Super Bowl. He got to the playoffs multiple years with Sean McVay and with Todd Gurley and with the good defense, Jalen Ramsey, etc. And I saw Jared Goff get to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. I am happy for him that he has this season in him right here. I'm happy that he is playing this way and is getting his props. I mean, Jared Goff has the third best quarterback ranking in the NFL when not pressured. He got 9 touchdowns and 2 picks. Now, it's a tough matchup against the Ravens. They lead the league with 24 sacks. They've got 11 different players who have a sack. But the Lions, man, they are good, right? We love their head coach, Dan Campbell. I want to see Jared Goff with all this. You know, David, how is he with David Montgomery out? He's going to be out in this game. What's up with Jahmyr Gibbs? Is he going to be healthy enough to play? They've got Jamison Williams there. They've got Laporta there, the rookie tight end out of Iowa, I believe. They've got Josh Reynolds. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Lions have a lot of weapons. I want to see Jared Goff get the ball in their hands, get the ball in the playmakers' hands, and see what happens. This is a good game. Lions, Ravens, 5-1, 4-2. Lamar Jackson is 15-1 in his career against the NFC. 15-1. He's 7-0 at home against the NFC. That winning percentage, 938, is the best by any quarterback against the opposing conference since 1970. Woo! Good matchup there. Looking forward to seeing how Jared Goff does. I like Jared Goff. He's always gotten 2. I'll never forget this, right? Patriots were playing the Lions last year, and the Patriots ended up winning the game 29-3 or whatever. I asked Phil Perry about Jared Goff, and he said basically he's nothing more than a room service quarterback. Well, Jared Goff's a guy who very well might go deep to the playoffs this year. Good for him. Danny.
The player with the most pressure this week is?
All right, there's a couple of guys with pressure this week. If he plays, the guy with the most pressure to me is Deshaun Watson. He's been out the last couple of weeks with the shoulder issue. I see people saying, it looks like Watson doesn't want to play. I see people say he's the biggest flop in the NFL. Got the best, at the time, the biggest quarterback contract in the history of the league, and he's been very, very average, and the Browns are average, and now he's injured, and now he doesn't want to play. They're playing a Colts team that doesn't have Anthony Richardson, right? Anthony Richardson is out in this game. Gardner Minshew is the guy for Cleveland or for Indy. And while Gardner Minshew is fun, they didn't look very good last week against Jacksonville. This is a game where Cleveland's favored by 3. They should win. The Browns are on the road. Browns are 3-2. They're looking to keep pace in a loaded AFC or in a congested AFC. Deshaun Watson's got to be a guy who can get them over the hump and not be a guy who's a limiting factor. I mean, good for the Browns. They showed the world what they could do on defense last week with what they did against Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and the 49ers. The Browns have shown they have a playoff caliber defense. They have a Super Bowl caliber defense. Can Deshaun Watson, if he plays, go on the road and beat an Indianapolis team that doesn't look like it's particularly good? I mean, he's got to be able to do that. I don't know how much he's going to play, or I don't know if he's going to play. He looked fairly good in practice video from earlier today. I would imagine that he does. He's got to get a win. People are fed up with him. People don't like Watson because of the allegations and the suspension. People don't want to like him. People are fed up with his contract. They're fed up with the lack of production. The Browns want to get back to the playoffs, and Watson has to be somebody that can get them there. Off of Deshaun Watson, if he doesn't play, well, then I'm going to my guy, right? I'm taking a little personal pressure here with Geno Smith. The Seahawks are playing the Cardinals. The Cardinals aren't expected to be very good this year, right? They're vying for the number 1 pick in the draft. I actually like Josh Dobbs. I think he's done a good job in Arizona while keeping the seat warm for Kyler Murray to get back from his torn ACL. Seahawks are 3-2, which is good. They should have been 4-1. They had a chance, every chance, to beat the Cincinnati Bengals last week. Geno had 2 picks, one of which was in the red zone at the goal line, one of which was around midfield. They had 2 chances on 4th down late in the game. Geno did not get it done. The offensive line cratered for him. It's not all his fault, but the 2 bad picks were his fault. And the Seahawks, this is a winnable game. It's a game they should win against a team that's not very good. They need to get to 4-2 because guess what? They're going to see San Francisco at the end of the year twice in 3 weeks. I'm banking on those as 2 losses in a row. You want to have yourself as much a cushion for the playoffs as possible by the time you get to the end of the season where you have a difficult schedule. Geno Smith, you got to get it done. And if I'm going for a third one, Justin Herbert. Because, the Chargers are just a walking disaster, right? They are a walking disaster. And they're taking on the Chiefs this week. Chargers are 2-3. They could be headed for 2-4. Kansas City's 5-1. So now, Herbert is hurt a little bit, right? He's got that injury on his non-throwing hand. He doesn't necessarily look great, but he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Can you be a guy who can overcome dysfunction, right? We've talked about Mac not being in a great situation. Well, Justin Herbert has better talent than Mac has around him, but the coaching situation doesn't look real good, apparently, with Brandon Staley, because this has been ugly for the Chargers. They're a team that has Super Bowl level talent, right? They have Super Bowl level talent, and they haven't been able to put it together for years. They have not been able to put it there for years. Danny, last question.
The most amazing NFL stat of the weekend is
49ers have not lost the turnover battle in 16 straight games. That is the longest streak over the last decade. Patriots did it in 21 straight games from 2011 to 2012. The Niners have not lost the turnover battle in 16 consecutive games. Why have they been able to be so good? Right there, that's why. They hold on to the football. They capitalize when they have it, or they take it away from you. Case closed. Football is an easy game when you hold on to the football. And while sometimes you got to take risks, the 49ers have found a way to take calculated risks, and they found a way to be able to take the ball from their opponent there on Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. Whew. That was our 6-pack of NFL questions here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Bunch of good games this week. Bunch of teams on the bye, though. Here we are at the time of the season where I think we got 6 teams on the bye this week. Let me see here. Cincinnati, Dallas, Tennessee, the Jets, Carolina, and Houston. Yep, 6 teams on the bye. I hate the bye week. Love it when it comes from my team, but hate when there's 6 of them in one shot here. I like watching football, and there's just not as many games because of it. All right. Celtics played yesterday in preseason action against the Hornets. There's one thing that I've really wanted to get to on the Celtics we haven't talked about yet in this preseason. We'll talk to Mr. Preseason, Danny, about the Celtics as well, who rolled over the Hornets last night. Be right back at it on the Brady Farkas Show on DEV.
The 18th annual Big Dog Daddy Hearing Clearance Sale is going strong at Lamoille Valley Chevy. Tell them, bro. Folks, take it from me that you can tune out all the noises about strikes and supply shortages. Right now at Lamoille Valley Chevy, our lot is full as it has ever been over the last 4 years, with over 200 new and pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs available. And with the new models incoming, it is time for us to sell down our inventory now, and that means you can save money with deals like this. Right now, current Chevy owners can take up to $10,000 off MSRP on a new in-stock Silverado at Lamoille Valley Chevy. And you shoppers, listen to this. Not only will you find one of the largest selections of new Chevy car, truck, and SUVs at Lamoille Valley Chevrolet, but our lot is also packed with late model, low mileage, pre-owned vehicles, including many that are certified pre-owned and some with a better warranty than a brand new car. Folks, at Lamoille Valley Chevy, we have the inventory, and most of all, we have the desire to make deals and earn your business. So come get an awesome deal at the Big Dog Daddy Hearing Clearance Sale happening now at Lamoille Valley Chevy, located just past Stowe and Morrisville in the beautiful town of Hyde Park, Vermont. And remember, at Lamoille Valley Chevy, we know price matters.
At Rise Up Bakery and Berry, they're not just baking bread, they're crafting works of art. Their wide variety of breads are long fermented, naturally leavened, and baked to perfection in a traditional wood-fired hearth oven. Each loaf is a testament to their knowledge, passion, and years of experience. Pre-order your selection to pick up at Rise Up Bakery Wednesday through Friday, 12:30 until 6. For details, visit Rise Up Bakery at 48 Granite Street in Barrie or online at riseupbakeryvt.com.
Thinking about installing an energy-efficient heat pump? Need heating system maintenance now, new furnace or boiler installation, home weatherization, and energy audit, 24/7 emergency service, reliable heating fuel, or wood pellet delivery? The Energy Co-op of Vermont takes the worry out of heating and cooling your home. Learn more at ecvt.net.
Use less, save more, the Energy Co-op of Vermont.
WDEV, Vermont's news station, with local news broadcasts morning, midday, and afternoon.
Good morning. It's 7:03. I'm Lee Cattell on the Radio Vermont News Network.
Welcome in afternoon news service here on WDEV, AM and FM, WDEVradio.com. I am Brady Farkas. We will have the highlights for you in sports. Now, though, in the news.
International and business news.
That's our look at world news on Vermont's news station, WDEV. I'm Greg Titus.
News from Vermont communities with our Talk with the Editors feature.
Head over to Addison County and chat with John Flowers at the Addison.
Is he in every day?
Current affairs program, Vermont Viewpoint.
I am Kevin Ellis. We had a great time talking about the Affordable Heat Act.
World and national news updates at the top and bottom of the hour from our partners at CBS.
Is CBS News on
Kai is off the news.
From the Radio Vermont Newsroom, WDEV, Vermont's news station, AM 550 and 96.1 FM, and streaming at WDEVradio.com.
Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, WDEVradio.com. The Rangers and Astros are tied at 1 now in the top of the 6th inning. That's Game 5 of the ALCS. Remember, we're going to have Game 4 of the NLCS. We'll have that for you tonight, 7:30. With the pregame show, 8:07 is first pitch there. Text came in on Facebook Live. This one came in from Andrew, who says, this show is terrible. It's not the station and the shows that Ken Squire built. Sorry, not interested with this in this time slot. My first question is, where have you been for 3 years? The show has existed for 3 years. You're just telling me you hate the show now? Like, the show has been on since October 25th of 2020. We're about to celebrate our first birthday. So if you haven't realized that we're on in this time slot for 3 years, that's a you problem, right? Like, and if you've waited 3 years to tell me you hate the show, that's a you problem too. As for not being the station or shows that Ken built, you are aware that Ken Squire was a sports guy, right? I just that's a serious question. Ken Squire's in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Ken Squire owned Thunder Road and developed Thunder Road and is the reason Thunder Road's on this station too. Like, Ken Squire likes sports. Ken Squire broadcasted at the Olympics. So I think Ken likes sports and sports talk as well. And oh, by the way, Ken approved hiring me and approved having this show in this slot. So I think he's okay with the show on his station. So there you go. I had to say that. 802-585-3026. Danny, what are you doing over Thanksgiving?
What am I doing?
Yeah.
The general stuff with the family. Nothing special.
Is your family just in to the Thursday stuff, the actual Thanksgiving Day stuff, or do you have Black Friday plans? Are you shopping at 3 a.m.?
Well,
are you with the family all weekend? What's going on?
Now there's football on Black Friday.
Yeah, but it's the Jets. So it's the Jets. So are you tied up all weekend?
I don't know yet.
I just got approved to go cover the World Cup of Skiing at Killington. You want to make a weekend of it?
Are we going together?
You want to go together, cover it with me? We'll hang out with Michaela Schifrin and crew.
Sounds fun. Let's go.
Well, don't tell me that if you don't really want to, because I already got the credential. I'm planning on going at least one day. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday's more of like a practice day. Saturday and Sunday are race days. I'm planning on going at least one day. If you want in, I will get you a credential.
Sounds like fun.
Do you prefer a day?
I'll go whenever you go.
Okay.
I don't know what to expect. That's what I'm saying.
I've never covered skiing before. I am so mad at myself. I have interviewed Michaela Schifrin twice, and the first time was one of the worst interviews I've ever done. It had absolutely nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with me. I would love another chance to interview Michaela Schifrin, and I would love a chance to interview her solo for this show. I do not believe I'm going to be able to get her anymore, and nor do I believe that I'm going to be able to get her at this event. This event does not really do one-on-one things. And look, with Michaela Schifrin, there'd be 1,000 outlets that want to talk to her, so she's not going to go and give 8 minutes to me when there's 1,000 places that would want to talk to her. But I will never forget this. And again, this is one of my biggest regrets in my career. When I first got to Vermont, so this was September of 2016 when I first got to Vermont, so just over 7 years ago. I was at another station, and I hosted 1 hour by myself, right? I hosted from 6 to 7 by myself. And the World Cup of Skiing was coming up, and I believe it was going to be at Killington for the first time ever, and it was going to be on the East Coast for the first time in a long time. And so one of our salespeople, was like, hey, we got some sponsorship stuff with the World Cup of Skiing. Like, can you do an interview? And I'm like, okay, well, with who? They're like, well, they're going to give you somebody. So the event gave me Michaela Schifrin. Now, this is 7 years ago. I don't know off the top of my head how old Michaela Schifrin is. I think she's about 27. Danny, can you look up how old she is? I think Michaela Schifrin's probably about 27. Which means at the time that I spoke to her, she was probably about 20. And she had just won the gold medal at the 2014 Sochi Olympics. She's
28.
She's 28. Okay, so she was 20 or 21 when I spoke to her. She had just won a gold medal at the Sochi Olympics in Russia. I know nothing about skiing, right? Like very little. Like then I knew nothing about skiing. Now I know about it, but I knew very little about skiing then. And this interview was thrown on me. This event was thrown on me. It was like, hey, can you do this interview? And by the way, it's going to be like tomorrow. So I didn't really have time to research it. So I was like, okay, it's cool. Hey, I get to talk to a gold medalist. And I just kind of like flubbed my way. It was like 7 minutes long, and I was terrible. She was great. I was terrible. And then like 3 years later, I got a chance to interview her again as part of a group on my former show. And the interview was a lot of fun. And she was awesome, and we were a lot better. But one of my biggest regrets was my solo interview with Michaela Schifrin and how bad I was. I would love another chance to interview her. Again, I don't think it's going to happen at this event at Killington. But Danny, maybe we could go and cover the event and get some sound bites from her and watch her race. It would be pretty cool to say, hey, I was at a race where a multi-time Olympic champion has been.
And you can redeem yourself with your interview, maybe.
Do you know anything about skiing?
No.
Okay. We'll have to learn. Well,
I like watching the ski jump in the Olympics.
Yeah, this is more slalom and giant slalom. This is when they whoosh around and they go, with the big turns and stuff.
Yeah, I know nothing about it.
Danny, one texter comes to our defense. After that other guy was mean to us, they says, we think the Brady Farkas show is awesome. We're thankful for DEV for hiring Brady and Danny also. Danny, I'm telling you, the people love you.
How many people?
Multiple people.
Multiple people. All right.
I was thinking today about your holiday gift. I just want you to know it's October 20th. I was thinking about your holiday gift today.
Now you're putting pressure on me to think about yours.
You do not need to that's not how this works. The host gets the producer a gift. You make me look good every day. That's how this works. So don't be thinking you have to get me a present.
Okay, no spoilers though.
No, I will not get you any spoilers. There are no spoilers, but you will have a present for the holidays, and I'm thankful that you're here as well. Now, let's draw on your expertise. Mr. Preseason. Celtics played last night. They played against the Charlotte Hornets. Oh, I mean, that was ugly. It was pretty, since we're Celtics fans, but it was ugly in general in terms of the game. The Celtics put up 70 again in the first half. They absolutely dominated. It was the final preseason game. Celtics finished 4-1. They beat the Hornets 127-99. Looking at the box score stuff.
Box score Brady.
Well, I'm just telling you how people play. Jaylen Brown had 20, Porzingis 14, Tatum 11, Derek White 15, and then 12 from Neemias Queta and 12 from Lamar Stevens. So guys who we're not even sure are going to be on the roster were in double figures. This game, they put up 66 in the first half, by the way. Sorry, not 70, almost 70. They put up 70 the other day against the Knicks. This was a nondescript blowout, Danny. This is kind of how I like it. Like, they got up big, and it wasn't like they got up and there was just kind of a 4-minute fit of flashiness, and then they were off the pedal. They just kind of methodically went about this game, and they ended up winning by 28. Now, Charlotte didn't shoot well, but
awful.
What'd you say? You took 12% at one point from three.
It was really bad from three, especially.
But I mean, look, you put up 66 in the first half. You blow out a team by 28. This wasn't like, hey, they got
14% from three by the end of the game.
Okay, so they get up. It wasn't like they get up 30 and then end up only winning by 7. They won by 28. I give them props for that. There's one guy I want to talk about with you that we haven't talked about all preseason, and I'm guilty of it, and that's Derek White. Because Derek White, to me, he's going to go under talked about all year. He's going to go underappreciated all year. And he's going to go under recognized all year. I want to make sure that we do our part in recognizing how good he is. Derek White is an integral part of this team, Danny, and he has grown into a really good player. Remember they got him at the trade deadline a couple of years ago from San Antonio?
For Josh Richardson.
Really? That's right.
And Romeo Langford.
Yes. So, yes, Romeo Langford. So, and White was good, right? Like, he was able to hit the three.
He was a solid player on a bad team.
He can do everything. He's a guy who can hit the three. He can hit the three in the corner. He can handle the ball a little bit. He is a guy who can play good defense. He can rebound, blocking shots. Like, I think Derek White is
elite shot blocker for a guard. Look up the metrics. He's probably the best in the league for his size.
I mean, how tall is he? He's got to be only like 6'3". He's not
only like
big.
6'4". His wingspan, though, is like almost 7 feet. It's crazy.
I just love watching Derek White play. And I understand it's a little easier for him to be impactful given what's around him, right? If you told me, hey, Derek White is going to be on the Orlando Magic, he may not be this good because everybody would be keying on him. But when he's the 5th or 6th best player on a team and he's the guy that you're leaving open or he's the guy you're leaving off, then I get it. He's going to be more inclined to do what he's doing. That doesn't make him any less good of a player. He hits open shots. He can take big shots. He started the game yesterday with a 3. He also had a really, really tough bucket going inside the lane. Derek White is a really good player, and he's a much better player than he's going to get credit for. And we're going to spend all year talking about Jaylen and talking about Jason and talking about Holiday and talking about Porzingis. We're not going to mention Derek White as much as we should. And I know that as we get ready for the opener 5 days from now. But I want to make sure here that we at least make it on record that we know how good Derek White is.
And the great thing is he doesn't really care about the credit either. He's just out there doing everything.
It's going to be interesting because I don't know if it's tomorrow, but I believe this weekend is the deadline to sign an extension for players of Derek White's age. And I don't know that it's going to get done, but Derek White is a winning basketball player. At the very least, Derek White is a winning basketball player, and he's a player I want on the Celtics as long as their window exists.
For sure.
As long as their window exists, I want Derek White on this team. Whether that means it's, he's here for another 2 years or he's here for another 3 years, I don't know. But he's a guy who, like everybody else on this team, is in his prime. Derek White is 28 he's 29 years old, just turned 29. So if I had him till he's 31, I'd be very, very excited about it. All right. I don't know that I want him for 10 years, but I want
just the rest of his prime would be good.
The rest of his prime. I got to see exactly. Okay. It's October 23rd is the deadline to get the deal done. So that is Monday. So Monday is the deadline to get the deal done. I don't know that he will. I hope that he does, but we'll have to see how it plays out. We are 5 days away from the opener against the Knicks. Danny, are you, I mean, obviously you're excited, but like, as we get closer and closer to opening day, what are your emotions?
Yeah, this team feels ready. The broadcast was saying last night, like after a dominant win like that, the only thing left is start the season and see how it goes, right?
And you know what's impressive too about last night? I know it's preseason, but there are no qualifiers on that win, right? When they blew out the Knicks, it was like, well, okay, this guy didn't play and that guy didn't play. Everybody played yesterday for Charlotte. And while Charlotte is not expected to be a great team, they still have LaMelo Ball. They still have Gordon Hayward, who for this moment in time is healthy. And they still have Terry Rozier.
Scary Terry.
Right? That's three very good pro players. PJ Washington is a goodish player. And they got the number 2 pick in the draft, and Brandon Miller, the kid out of Alabama, who scored 8 points. So they have some exciting things on this Charlotte Hornets roster. All those guys played, and the Celtics still beat them by 28.
Yeah, Charlotte's not a playoff team this year, but they're improving, and the Celtics should do that to inferior opponents.
I really miss Terry Rozier. I loved watching Rozier in Boston. I thought he brought an edge. I thought he brought a toughness. He's a ability to get a basket. I don't know that he would fit on this team anymore, but I just enjoy watching Terry Rozier play.
Yeah, he was a fun player.
29 years old for right now for Charlotte. He got his money. I'm happy for him that he did. He's a guy who averages 14 points a game for his career. He averaged 21 for Charlotte 2 years ago and 19 last year, or 21 last year for Charlotte, 19 the year before that. He was great in the playoffs for Boston a handful of years ago. Again, I don't mean that he's a selfish player intrinsically, but he's a guy who needs the ball in his hands, I think. And this Celtics team is going to be more predicated on ball movement. I don't know how great he would be with this version of the Celtics, but I always enjoyed watching him play. Texter says, Derek White is a fantasy basketball sleeper because of his blocks. There you go. You heard it here first. It's the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, WDEVradio.com. Final Patriots predictions, and I want to wrap up one thought on UVM women's basketball at a media day this week. We'll talk about it next on DEV.
How would you like to golf for free next year at the Country Club of Barrie? The grand prize of the 2024 membership raffle is just that, a 2024 Country Club of Barrie golf membership, or $500. Lots of additional prizes will also be awarded. Proceeds of the raffle will go directly toward course maintenance.
The same block.
Tickets are $20 each, or 6 for $100. Drawing to be held October 31st. Details on the drawing can be found at ccofbarrie.com. Voted a top 5 place to play golf in Vermont, you could be a member. Raffle details at ccofbarrie.com.
Now's the time to discover Waterbury, a place for once-in-a-lifetime experiences. Explore our restaurants, pubs, and cafes, and visit our unique shops. There's something for everyone. Visit discoverwaterbury.com for more information.
Woodstock Farmers Market, celebrating 30 years. We're a year-round mecca of fantastic food, offering fresh produce, cheeses, meats, grab-and-go sandwiches, coffee, baked goods, and amazing specialty products. Tuesday through Sunday on Route 100 in Waterbury Center and Route 4 in Woodstock. Stop on by.
Attention Vermont car enthusiasts. Discover Snowfire Auto, your ultimate destination for premium cars and exceptional service. We've got Subarus, Volkswagens, Hondas, Toyotas, Volvos, and Mercedes-Benz, just to name a few. Our friendly sales staff can guide you to the perfect match. And with our experienced service technicians, we'll keep you worry-free on the road. Visit Snowfire Auto in Waterbury today, or check us out online at snowfireauto.com and make your dream car a reality.
Hi, folks. Steve Cormier, General Manager of the Radio Vermont Group. I'm sure by now you heard us talk about our exclusive Radio Vermont trip to Antarctica with meteorologist Roger Hill. Well, I got big news for you. We just secured more cabins at a better price. New Radio Vermont pricing starts at under $9,000 per person, double occupancy, and $11,000 per person for a single cabin. That's a nice price drop. And don't worry, if you're already booked, we're passing on the new discounted prices to you. And if you've collected air miles, you can use those to get a better deal.
You fly into and out of Burlington, which is another plus. This fabulous trip starts on January 25th when you fly to Buenos Aires and back to Buenos Aires after a splendid once-in-a-lifetime 9-day cruise through some of the most spectacular scenery on Earth.
Details at WDEVradio.com. We've made our trip to Antarctica more affordable, so now you can go. For more details and information, or to book your space, call Milne Travel at 800-78-MILN.
Marvin windows are designed for unprecedented performance and exceptional aesthetics. Marvin's expansive window portfolio has every style you can imagine, all of them crafted with the highest quality material and the ability to mix and match across product lines that allows you to achieve the right form and function for your residential, commercial, and replacement needs. See our Marvin specialist at Sticks and Stuff and Swanton Lumber in Middlesex, St. Albans, Enosburg, Swanton, and Derby, or online at sticksandstuff.com.
WDEV is your home for New England Patriots football. The Patriots take on AFC rival the Buffalo Bills this Sunday. Pregame at 10, kickoff at 1. Patriots football on WDEV, brought to us by Matt Clark's Northern Basement Systems. For all things basement-y, visit northernbasements.com. By Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center on Route 15 in Hardwick, your go-to place for routine auto maintenance. And Patriot Transport, affordable transportation for the greater Stowe, Burlington, and Central Vermont region. New England Patriots football this Sunday at 10 on WDEV AM and FM.
The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Texter says, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are the third best team in the Eastern Conference. I can get behind that. Danny, I don't know how you see it, but I think it's very clearly Boston and Milwaukee in either order, and then everybody else. I think Philadelphia certainly. Obviously, the James Harden thing is holding over them right now. I don't think he's going to be with this team either at all or for very long. They still have Embiid. They still have a good roster overall. I think they could be the third best team in the Eastern Conference. I think people want maybe the Knicks to be the third best team in the Eastern Conference. I don't think that they're as good as Cleveland. Atlanta has some nice
the Knicks knocked the Cavs out of the playoffs last year. So
yeah, but the regular season's different. I think that the Cavs are going to value the regular season, and I don't mean that other teams aren't, but I think the Cavaliers are going to value the regular season. Like, I can see them being a team that wins 49 games in the regular season and then gets a 3 seed, and then we wonder what's going to happen in the playoffs, right? Like all those years that Utah, speaking of Donovan Mitchell, valued the regular season and then wasn't able to get it done ultimately. So I think Cleveland's very good. I also think they are a scary matchup for teams. I don't know what that will mean playoff-wise, but I could get behind Cleveland being the third best team in the East. Miami is, I think, a team that's better in the playoffs than they are in the regular season, especially as they get a little bit older, and they were so injured last year, even though he's, was injured too. They lost Oladipo. So, Lowry's older. Yeah, I think
no
Miami.
Strus, no Vincent. They're starting over a little bit.
I think Miami took a step back. We know Chicago's not very good. Washington, Toronto, always fringy, interesting, but not the third best team in the league. I guess I would, in the East. I guess it would probably come down to me between Philly, the Cavs, and the Knicks. And I have no problem saying that the Cavs are the third best team. All right. Let's stick on basketball. Let's move over to UVM women's basketball. Kind of my last thought on them when it comes to their media day from yesterday. But I told you the biggest concern for this team is who plays point guard, especially in the wake of Catherine Gilwey being injured. I asked yesterday Emma Utterback, the preseason all-conference selection, how she feels if she gets moved to the point guard position this year.
Kat's my best friend, and our chemistry is really good on and off the court. So I definitely do feel an absence, obviously, because I've loved playing with her. So I will be missing that a lot. But we have a lot of offensive threats this year and last year. I think a lot of girls have stepped up to the plate that were underclassmen, and, they've taken on a bigger role, and their confidence has grown in the system and, knowing what Crest wants. And they've really bought in. And I think people are going to be really, really amazed at the talent that we have on this team. And if I have to run the point at times, I've done it before. I grew up playing point guard. So there is confidence with that, but I trust that there's other girls on my team that can also have that role and do it at a really, really high level.
We will see what happens, but that is going to be the decision for Lisa Kresge, right? Catherine Gill, we have talked about it a bunch of times. I don't need to repeat it. She's indispensable for this team. So now that she's not there, out for the year with injury, how does Lisa Kresge want to handle it? Because if she puts Emma Utterback at point guard, there's some comfort there there's some comfort in giving the job to a veteran player, to a senior leader, but you're also taking her away from what she does best. If you give it to somebody else, you keep everybody comfortable in their spots, but I don't know who those people are. Now, Jack Main from NBC5 told us earlier in the afternoon news he thinks Bellavito might be the player who takes over the point guard spot. I have not seen Bellavito this year, right? I have not seen her since last season. I don't know how much stronger she got. She is not a particularly strong player. And I mean, she's a good player. I mean, she's not a physically strong player. See, I don't know how she would handle getting hounded all game long by an opposing point guard who is tenacious on defense. Emma Utterback, I think, could handle that. She's physically, put together when it comes to being able to, 3-run home run there by the Texas Rangers, 4-2 Texas. Anyways, Emma Utterback is a physically strong player who I think is able to hold her ground. And that would probably stand to reason that she's 3 years older than Bellavito or 2 years older than Bellavito. So we will see what happens. It is the question, though, for Lisa Kresge. The question for us is, can the Patriots get a victory? I don't know if they can. I'm saying no. 24-14 Bills. That's my prediction. Thanks to Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston for stopping by. Go download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks to you all for texting. Thanks to Danny for producing and engineering the show. As always, we will see you on Monday right here on DEV.
The 18th annual Big Dog Daddy